In the village of Amuabia there was a name that tasted like honey on the tongue. Nika. She wasn't just a woman, she was a masterpiece of the gods. When she walked to the stream, the water seemed to settle just to reflect her face. Her skin was the color of polished mahogany, and her laughter sounded like silver bells carried on the wind. Every young man in the village brought yams and palm wine to her father's gate, hoping to win her favor, but Nika's heart was captured by Obina. He was a man of silver words and golden promises. He whispered to her that she was his eternal hibiscus, the only flower that would ever bloom in the garden of his life. Their marriage was a grand celebration, filled with dancing and the blessings of the elders. Everyone in Amuabia looked upon them and believed their union was written in the stars. A love story for the ages. Just a month into their marriage, Nika became pregnant. The joy in their small home was like a roaring fire, warming every corner. Obina would gently rub her growing belly and boast at the village square, his voice full of pride. My son will have the strength of a lion and the face of an angel. But as the months passed, a strange shadow fell over Nika. A mysterious exhaustion took hold of her, a weariness that sleep couldn't chase away. Her once glowing skin turned ashen and dry. Her hair, which had been thick and dark, began to thin and fall out. The pregnancy, once a source of celebration, was now a thief, stealing her vitality. By the 6th month, the whispers started. The villagers would see her and turn away, their voices low and filled with pity or judgment. The gods have turned their faces from her, they'd say. Look at how the beauty has turned into a ghost. Obina's pride curdled into deep embarrassment. He stopped walking beside her in the market. He no longer rubbed her tired feet at the end of the day. The golden promises turned to cold silence. When their first daughter was finally born, a small, frail child who looked just like the exhausted version of her mother, Obina didn't celebrate. He looked at the baby girl and saw not a blessing, but a broken reflection of his own vanity. 2 years passed in a cold, silent house. Nika worked the fields with their daughter strapped to her back, her body never quite recovering its former glory. She felt like a shadow of the woman she once was, moving through a life that no longer felt like her own. Then, the betrayal that had been growing in the silence took a physical form. Obina brought home another woman, Zina. She was everything Nika was no longer: youthful, vibrant, and full of life. She wore a shimmering red dress that seemed to mock the dusty, earth-stained rags Nika wore to work the soil. One afternoon, Obina's voice struck her like a hammer against her heart. Pack your things, he thundered. I married a queen, not a shadow. Zina will give me the legacy you stole from me. Nika stood her ground, her body trembling. She was pregnant again, with their second unplanned child. She placed a hand on her heavy belly. You would cast out the woman who gave her health for your bloodline? She asked, her voice shaking but defiant. Obina didn't answer. He only looked at Zina, a cruel smile playing on his lips. With her daughter's small hand in hers and a bundle of clothes, Nika walked out of the compound she had called home. She didn't cry. Her tears had long dried up. Instead, she carried her dignity like a shield. Nika found refuge in a collapsed, abandoned hut at the very edge of the evil forest. It was a place where even the wind sounded like a mourning cry, a place people avoided. She spent her nights shivering from the cold and the loneliness, whispering to the life growing inside her, You are not a curse, you are my reason, you are my strength. The night of her labor was a night of fury. The sky cracked open with thunder and lightning, as if the heavens themselves were raging. Without a midwife, with only her young daughter to hold her hand and wipe her brow, Nika fought for her life and the life of her child. She battled through the pain, her screams swallowed by the storm. And then, just as the baby finally arrived, the storm suddenly ceased. The wind fell silent, and the rain stopped. Nika gasped, her breath catching in her throat. This child was not frail. He was radiant. His skin was smooth, his eyes were bright and piercing, and his features were a perfect, handsome blend of his parents. He was a sun-child, born in the darkest of places, a beacon of hope after the storm. News of the miracle child reached the village like a wildfire. The elders, their curiosity piqued, traveled to the edge of the forest to see this child for themselves. When Obina heard that Nika had birthed a son who looked like a prince, his shallow heart skipped a beat. A son, the legacy he craved. He rushed to the hut, pushing past Zina, who was already losing her charm in the face of his growing bitterness. He found Nika standing outside the hut, the morning sun illuminating her face. Something had changed. The grayness was gone from her skin. Her eyes held a fire, a deep, powerful light that made her more beautiful than she had ever been before. It wasn't the fleeting beauty of a young girl. It was the terrible, majestic beauty of a survivor. Nika, Obina cried out, falling to his knees in the dirt. The gods have forgiven us. Look at the boy. He is perfect. Come home. I will chase Zina away. Everything will be as it was. Nika looked down at the man who had traded her soul for a shimmering red dress. She felt no anger, no hatred, only a profound sense of peace. You do not want a wife, Obina, she said, her voice steady and calm. You want a trophy. You want something to show off. But I am not a pot of gold to be stored in your house when it is shiny and thrown away when it is dusty. I have found a strength in the darkness that you will never understand. Nika did not return. She took her children and moved to a neighboring village where her mother's family welcomed her with open arms. She started a small farm, and the land flourished under her touch. Her daughter grew tall and strong, and her son became a wise leader whose counsel was sought by many. As for Obina, he lived the rest of his life in a house of echoes. Zena left him when his money ran low, and the villagers, once his admirers, stopped greeting him at the square. He spent his days staring at the gate to his empty compound, waiting for an eternal hibiscus that would never bloom for him again. Nika's story became a song, sung by the young women of Imuabia as they worked. It wasn't a song about beauty, it was a song about worth. It taught every girl, and every woman, that the most beautiful thing you can ever wear is the courage to walk away from anyone who does unsee your soul. Thank you for listening. If this story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe for more tales of strength and resilience. We'll see you in the next video.